coming to power. Some even hoped he would save Germany. But we knew better. We knew all he would bring was tragedy, chaos, and death. We knew we couldn't remain silent. We knew we had to resist. No matter the cost.
Hello and welcome to our first segment of Meet Our Devs Around the Globe from Berlin to Mexico.
Few realized the consequences of him coming to power. Some even hoped he would save Germany.
Bigger stream segments, just to talk about their games, where they are from, what they're working on, and what else we have.
But we knew better.
And today we're going to start in Berlin on a more serious note, because we're going to talk to our developers from Paintbucket Games about the
We
game
knew
Through the Darkest of
all
Times,
he would bring
which is
was
a
tragedy,
game
chaos, and
where you
death.
resist the so-called Third Reich and try to stop Hitler on his way to power and on his way to
We
conquer
knew
the
we
world.
couldn't remain silent.
And for that, we have two devs invited from the Paintbucket studio, and we're going to talk to us about the development of the game, the history behind it, their research process. And I would say, should we get them in here right away?
Yes, we can do that. So let me switch over to our lovely developers. And now you can even hear them. So maybe start with a quick introduction. Who are you guys and what are you doing at Paintbucket Games?
Hi Jan, hi Felix. Thanks for having us.
Yes, and the rest? Sebastian? Do I have to introduce you?
Yeah, hi, my name is Sebastian. I'm sitting here in Kreuzberg in the Saftladen. I'm the art director of Paintbucket Games. Nice to see you.
And Jörg, what are you doing at Paintbucket Games?
Sorry, yes, I'm Jörg. I'm a co-founder and game designer slash game director, whatever, at Paintbucket.
Okay, that was a bit of a tricky
Yeah,
introduction. What are you doing at Paintbucket Games? Well, I am Paintbucket Games.
A rough hand over there.
A rough hand over there.
So, who else is working at Paintbucket Games? Where are you guys working? Like location-based? Who else is in the team? How many people are working there? Just give us a quick rundown on your team.
Okay, so Paintbucket Games is a small indie studio in Berlin-Kreuzberg, so at the heart of Berlin. We are a team of 5 now. So with us there is also working Vivian, our artist, then it's JD and Jona, our technical designers. And right now there's also Lucy with us, our art intern, with new ideas and approaches.
So yeah, we can see now on the stream a little slideshow that you guys prepared for us with all the team members and how they are working on the game. Also some stylized picture of you two guys.
Yeah, yeah. That is something that Sebastian made in the early days. It's we all got our business cards in the style of the game, in the same art style. Yeah.
Oh, so pretty.
Speaking of style of the game, I just gave a really quick rough rundown about the game. Do you want to just lose a few words about what is this game? What was the intention behind the game? Because I mean, it's out already, so most people probably know it. But just for those who don't know, what is Through the Darkest of Times exactly?
In Through the Darkest of Times, you play as a resistance fighter, a civilian resistance fighter in Berlin in 1933. So when the Nazis came into power, and you try to build a resistance group consisting of your friends and people that you know, and try to, as good as you can, resist against the regime. So educate people about what they're really after, try to get funds so that you can even work as a resistance group, and help people basically persecuted, hide them from the Gestapo or from the police, and you try to do all of that while not being caught by the Gestapo or the police, which is really hard. And you also have to witness how the country changes over time, how the people that your relatives, your co-workers, how they might actually fall for this regime, how they think it's a good thing, and how they cannot understand why you are worried about the path that Germany takes.
Yeah. And I think,
And
sorry there to interrupt, and I think like
please,
what is still really striking for me is that in this game, you're not playing as some kind of war hero and you're running through the Normandy and just gunning down Nazis, whatever. You're playing as just a normal guy. You are a lawyer, you are a firefighter or whatever, and you try to, resist this regime. And as you said, like witnessing all the developments that are going on, and it's that's still very striking for me. It was like really always an emotional impact that it has, that you try to do something about that, because oftentimes I'm under the impression that it's portrayed as like there were not a lot of people, fighting against all the stuff that were going on in these times, and that is simply not true. There were a lot of people that were fighting against that. So, and speaking of resistance, you actually put a lot of effort into research for all the historical events, or like the general historical accuracy. You wanted to keep as close to the historical facts as possible. What was your approach there? So how deep were you going into libraries and trying to dig out stuff that is like not so prevalent already in the history of these times already? And was there something surprising for you guys already? Because we all sit in school, we learn about history of World War II, and all of us seem to slide into this, oh yeah, I know about that, yes, it was bad times. But for me, for example, when I was playing the game for the first time, it was still very heavy. It was like, oof. It was like weighing down on me, even though I knew exactly what was going to happen. So, and this is still something where I say, this is, you did a very great job there.
well, thank you. But so for us, it was really important to approach this part of history in an appropriate manner. So we felt like when I digged into the story of these civilian, or the civilian resistance fighters that existed, I felt that this is a fascinating story, and that this is a story that is not told enough, and that is worth being told, especially in a video game, that this would make a great video game. But it was clear that we would need to pick a different approach, that we couldn't go for the typical gamey, you are the superhero and you are defeating the bad guys and then you win approach, but we would need to do it in a way that would be more appropriate to how it actually played out. And so yes, research was super important. I read tons and tons of books. We watched every movie that we could get our hands on, but we also simply went out, because we live in Berlin, right? We work in Berlin, and it's all around us. I mean, Sebastian, you can probably talk a little bit about this how we went out to the city and digging up what was there.
I mean, there is so much locations here, museums, like the Widerstand, and so on. So you can just find a lot of material. And then I remember there was one thing that Jörg was going to Bayerischen to research for Nazi portrait, and visited a bookstore there. And then the people just give you more and more hints for material for books already written, where you find all the stuff which is happening here. So it was very interesting.
Yeah, that was for example, with this bookstore, that was really an example. I went in there and talked to the owner of the bookstore, and she told me that this bookstore was a meeting point for people who were against the regime during the Nazi time. And
Perfect.
and that was like, this is the kind of stuff that just happened just happen to run into when you start looking in Berlin.
A question for me would be, were you guys historically interested before already? And if so, like, you know a lot about the story, and were there still things you discovered where you were like, I couldn't imagine that this really happened in those times, or that stuff like this really existed?
Yes. Yes, I was very interested in history before, but basically as a hobbyist, just reading about it and yeah, and what I learned at school. But during the work on the game, there were a lot of information that I had no clue about before. Like, one example was was really shocking to me was that there was, after, I always thought that when Hitler came into power, then basically there was no resistance, there was nothing that could have been done anymore. Basically, Germany turned into a fascist state from one day to the other. But in but the truth is that it was a slow process, that it happened day to day, that things changed slowly. And one thing that I learned was that there was a big, big demonstration, a protest march in Berlin with 200,000 people protesting against the regime weeks after Hitler was into power. And that is just that I had never heard about this thing before. And yeah, it was details like this, and then at the same time, how early some of the terror already started, and how visible it was, and how obvious it was to people around it, and that so many people just watched these things happen and did not do anything about it.
That's also stuff that's now in the game, right? These details that you found out about, because I know that this protest can also be found in the game, and I know
Yeah.
that it portrays very well the bystander thing, where people are just watching stuff happen and turning away from it. I think that's very well portrayed in the game, and so people like us can learn about these details, because I know the first time I played this mission, I was like, wait, why are there 200,000 people here? And I thought there was no.
Yeah.
I thought this wasn't a thing, like you said.
Yeah, definitely. So with a theme as harsh and dark and even sad, was this also why you chose this distinct art style right now? So this very abstract looking thing that you were like, okay, we're trying to, how to say, to really like compensate or work out the theme by, you know, not showing explicit images of just dead people and blood everywhere, but to, you know, have this abstract look that still, you know, conveys the message really well. So was this also?
Yeah. So as we started to brainstorm about how we can visualize that game, so we come to the conclusion that we don't want to do what a lot of other games or movies do, to portray the fascist regime in a way which the fascist regime would, which the Nazis basically would like, you know, these heroic picture, these heroic soldiers, and so we figured out that there's a lot of we did did a lot of research, and we figured out that there is basically the perfect role model to go in a completely different direction is what happens in the 20s, in the 30s, in the art scene here in Berlin, in the Weimar Republic, is this German expressionism, like Käthe Kollwitz, Otto Dix, and so on. So people who portrayed their environment in a different way, in a more expressive, rough, and sometimes also ugly way, and we tried to adopt this for our game to so that we in the end we would have an art style that resistance fighters in our mind would like, and Nazis would hate. So this is a bit the idea, and that yeah.
And was this like a coincidence that this distinct art style that you're using right now was also then banned in the times? So that this abstract thingy was already banned by the Nazis, right? So
yeah, exactly. It was blamed as an Arte de Kunst, so it was banned from the museums, and the Nazis only want to see like these, these old-fashioned heroic paintings with and this expressionism doesn't fit that kind of picture they had, and so it was good for us. We could just use it as our orientation to how should I say that, to develop our own style on the base of that kind of art.
Okay, now especially with this art style, with this look, how hard was it to pitch this game, and what were like the greatest challenges overall in designing the game and coming up with this game?
It was a hard pitch, I would say, because especially in the beginning when we didn't have anything and we just had this idea and we were telling other game developers as well about it. And then they always asked, so how do you win the game? Can you kill Hitler? And then was like, probably you cannot kill Hitler because that's just not how it happened, and it's also not necessary for what's important about the game and what you do in the game, that you kind of beat the Nazis. It's a game about being in a resistance that does not win, kind of, then that still does try to do the right thing.
So winning is survival, basically. If you survive that times.
Persisting, because I always say that you try to keep existing as a resistance group, right? Because if you just want to survive, you can give up and say like, okay, I don't resist anymore, and then your chances for survival are even higher. But what you're trying to do is you try to keep doing the right thing and try to keep as a resistance group, and that was also the part that I say was the hardest to design, because it's this thin line between giving players something to succeed, right? Because you are playing the game, right? You want to be good at it in some way, and you do something and reach a point, and at the same time you cannot give them everything. Kind of. And so what the way it works is basically you if you stop resisting, if you stop doing resistance actions as your group will eventually dissolve. They will just give up. They will lose help, and then they say like, okay, we give up. Well, what's the point? But at the same time, there's always, the more you do resist, the higher the risk is that you're getting caught, and
a slippery slope then that you have to treat.
Yes. So, yeah.
We will actually see the game, of course, in action. We will have a dedicated Let's Play session, also with, I think, both of us, right, Felix?
Yes,
so you and I,
both of us and you guys.
And you guys. So we will play the game, and we can then go into detail about all the different mechanics that will be in there. But you dodged my question a little bit about a little bit about like also what was the hardest. I mean, you told about that the hardest stuff was designing like the win condition basically, Okay, then you didn't dodge the question. I'm sorry, I missed it a little bit.
One more thing we could talk about is maybe the music, because the
yeah.
music is also in this game very important, because it transports the emotion. It's very well written. It helps to transport the message of the game a lot. So how did you decide on which music to use, and where did you record it, or who wrote it?
There are a lot of questions. So basically, we as we started to think about the music, the soundtrack of the game, so we very quickly come to that idea that it should be something from the time, obviously, and swing is the music of the resistance, because Nazis didn't like swing music and everything. It was U.S. American, it was international, it was for young people, so it doesn't fit this idea, you know what I mean? And then we had a great chance to work together with a swing band from Berlin here. It's the Rufus Temple Orchestra, and we booked the studio. I think it was quite close to Spandau, and a very nice studio in an old cinema. And then on one day we recorded, I don't remember exactly, 12 or 13 tracks for the game, which is a lot for one record. And I mean, you saw a lot, some of those pictures I made there, and it was a great day, because those guys were just like total professionals, and we gave them a list, so with a lot of stuff we want to have recorded, like new songs they never played before on clarinet and so on, and that was awesome. And so this one part of the soundtrack of the music was coming up in the game, and the other part, a lot of the ambient stuff you hear in the game is made by Almut Schwacke, which is a sound Foley artist here from the Saftladen collective, and she made a lot of great ambient tracks that you hear in the historic events and so on. Yeah.
Very well. Do we have any question? Do we have time left? Is the big question here.
Oh yeah,
because we're gonna have a talk with devs from Mexico right after this. So.
Yes, exactly. So we will have a bit of constrained time frame there. No, I mean, thanks guys. This was pretty great. Those were like great insights, and I would say we will talk about maybe a little bit more, also maybe a little bit more about development during our Let's Play session, so we don't have to keep it like completely Let's Play focused. So
it's tomorrow afternoon, I think.
Yeah, tomorrow in the afternoon, yes. I mean, we will display the schedule basically on our stream the whole time. So guys, if you are a little bit lost when is happening, we will display the schedule and you can see exactly when the events are happening. Just a quick thing then anymore, Through the Darkest of Times is out now on basically every platform. It's out on Steam, it's out on PlayStation 4, Xbox, and even Nintendo Switch, which was also probably quite an adventure for you guys to do the porting stuff. And I think this is also a topic that we can run down when we are doing the Let's Play session.
Yep.
So I would say thank you for being here with us. It was great talking to you. I hope also that the audience got some nice insights about Through the Darkest of Times. You can also head over to Steam and of course wishlist the game. And also, of course, don't forget to head over to the Indie Arena booth online, and if you haven't already, create your avatar and explore our booths. Explore all the games that are out there, because this is now a digital convention happening right now. Because, well, Corona, I mean, I don't need to explain what that stuff is because everybody knows already.
You could also hop on Discord to ask more questions if there are any questions, because of this limited time frame, we didn't have much time to ask.
Exactly.
You guys couldn't ask much questions, so the devs are going to be on Discord to answer all of your questions. If you have more historical questions, if you have more questions about the gameplay, the game design, just hop over there, talk to them, and they will happily answer your questions.
Exactly. So, yeah, without further ado, I think that should be it. So thanks
Alright.
again.
Thank you very much.
Jörg and Sebastian from Paintbucket Games. And up next, we will be here soon with the Drumerians from Mexico. So stay tuned and bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you.